Live stream test 1, test 2, test 3. Stream test 1. Stream test 1, test 1. Test, 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 test.
I turned it off, but your headphones are unplugged, but that's okay.
Because I can. Okay, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Stream check 1. Check 1, check 2. Check 1, check 2. There we go. That should be it. Check 1, check 2. Testing, audio, sound, audio, sound. Here's something. Microphone check 1, 2, 1, 2. Microphone check. Check, 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 check. broke it. Test 1 2, test 1 2, test 1 2, test 1 2, test 1 2.
What?
It's not letting me record. Oh, I've got 2.
Did you just remove the YouTube? Oh no, that's what we're rolling it.
Okay, testing, test 1 2, test 1 2. Reason this level is way, way low. Test, 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 test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Check. Check, 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 check. Check microphone, check.
I gotta figure out how to get more audio from the board into here. It's out the USB. Try the level at the master. Okay, so we're gonna have to adjust then.
Real quick, test. So take that down until I say it's okay. Take the volume down on the speakers. Oh man, I don't know.
I know how to do it is turn it down at the amps and then
Turn the master down. Turn the main down. Test, 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 test. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. FX, check, check. Testing, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Testing. Okay. Audio out. Control room, aux master, out, out, out. Try that.
Is your USB stand separate?
USB is on.
How about on the back?
Test, 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 test. Check.
Oh, there's volumes on the, there's volumes on the front. and
Okay. No, we're having trouble getting it from there to there.
So I think what you want to do is you want to lower the amps so this goes low,
Okay.
and then turn up the main so that it'll turn that up and that signal.
Okay, let's try that.
Okay. I need to make an announcement. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are going to get started in about 5 minutes, so if you could start making your way to a table.
or a chair or a convenient place to stand, that would be great. And we'll be going in about 5 minutes. For the panel. Oh, great. Well, thank you. You guys are great partners. Thank you. We enjoy working.
We do too. I'm a voracious reader. I read your products, and I'm not going to be using Flash or anything.
Sounds good. Okay, go ahead and grab your seats. We're going to get started here in just a second. Lots of great space down here. We've got some chairs. We've got a couple tables here that are dying for a few more people to sit down. The closer you are, the easier it is to see the screen. And Alex has got some really good slides tonight, so you want to be able to see the screen. All right, 1 minute. Where do you want me? All right, good evening and welcome everybody. Thank you very much for coming tonight. My name is Bob Woodward. I'm the publisher of TH Media and the Telegraph Herald, and we very much appreciate you coming tonight to the third in our 7-part series on making Dubuque better from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. Tonight's topic is education. Education, the great enabler, but not always for everybody and not equally so. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the fact that Dubuque is getting more diverse. We've got a lot of quantitative information to share shortly and some qualitative stories to tell you. And that diversity includes in our schools, in our education system, public and private. And not everybody has the same resources, access, and opportunities. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Those challenges start early in youth, and they continue all the way through high school and beyond, including graduation, if they even get there to graduation. Many do, too many don't. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges. We're going to talk about some of the resources, and we're going to talk about some of the next steps. So things that you can do today, things that we collectively as a community need to tackle going forward. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors tonight and for all of the 7-part series, starting with our lead sponsor, and we're going to hear from their leader here in a moment, NICC. Also John Deere, Cottingham and Butler, Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, the Dubuque Community Chamber, Hodge Companies, Green State Credit Union, those 7. And I also would be remiss if I didn't also thank our partner in this whole series, the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque. So, thank you. To kick off with some comments, additional comments tonight, please welcome to the podium stage, front of the room, Dr. Herbert Rydell from NICC.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you to TH Media for sponsoring this event and giving us the opportunity to be a part of it. Northeast Iowa Community College is very proud and pleased to be a sponsor of this event. It's very important for the community. And what we do as a community college depends on what your connection is to us, because we do a lot of things in the community. Some of you may know of us as the institution that works directly with businesses and industry to provide customized training, to train workers, to help bring in to create new jobs. And we do a lot of that. We have an awesome Vice President for Business and Community Services, Dr. Wendy Mim-Harold, who will be on the panel in just a little while, and she does a terrific job. So some of you know us in that capacity as a workforce engine, as we are with the other 14 community colleges in the state of Iowa. Some of you may know us through some of the enrichment courses that we have. We have cake decorating classes, cooking classes, ballroom dancing occasionally, and various things like that. And that's a very good thing, because part of our mission is to enrich the community. And some of you know us as a place where students go, and I will say students of all ages, because it can be those students that are still in high school or just out of high school, traditional college age, or it could be non-traditional students that have been out in the workforce, maybe making a career change and looking for a job opportunity or skills training where they can go and get a high-paying job. And you know, we have programs that are a few weeks or a few months, and then we have those programs that are credit certificates or associate degrees that are career technical skill training. And then some of you may know us as a place where students go to take 2 years of college that will then transfer into a bachelor's degree at a 4-year institution or university. So we're very diverse. We do all kinds of things. We do different things for different people, but we're an essential part of the community. Our entire mission is to provide in-demand training and education, focusing on improving lives, driving business success, and advancing community vitality. And so we're very much interconnected with the community. This is a great community. We have 2 centers in downtown Dubuque, a wonderful newly renovated campus in Piasta, just 20 minutes from here, and then we have a campus in Calmer and other centers across our 5,000 square mile service area in the northeast of Iowa. So it's a really great opportunity, great facility to have. But the key is that what our mission really encompasses is driving transformation and advancing individual lives, really transforming in a positive way, and that's really the key to the topic today. And this is true on an individual basis, but when one person advances him or herself, it brings up that family and in turn transforms the community. So I wanted to just mention an experience I had several years ago. I was president of a community college in Alabama. And at my first graduation that I was presiding over, I made some statement of, like I just made, that we have a lot of first generation students, students who've never been to college before, maybe the first in their families. So after all was done and all the degrees had been confirmed and people were disbanding, one young woman came up to me and she said, I heard what you said about being the first in one's family to go to college. I'm such a student. I'm the first in my family ever to go to college and to graduate. But I'm also the first in my family ever to graduate from high school. Can you imagine that? The first in her family to even graduate from high school, and she went on and went to college and is now a college graduate. That family now has a college graduate in their midst. That has transformed that family forever. And her children and their children will value education. And her community now has a family of college-educated individuals. Another experience I had, I talked with a lady who's middle-aged, and she actually had a daughter in college, and she never went to college. Well, she told me when she went to the college, she wanted to sign up for a class, and she got to the parking lot, parked her car, and she sat in her car for half an hour because it was that difficult psychologically to get out of the car and walk the few steps over to the admissions building because she didn't know if she could do it. She had a lot of self-doubt. Thankfully, she did, and she ended up graduating 2 years later with her daughter. So that was a great success. And finally, well, thank you. And we see that every day in the community college, but I want to mention one more situation, and this is a woman named Helen Rosemont Saunders. And I heard her tell this story because I was at one point an employee of a community college in South Carolina, and that's where this lady had her start in education. And she was from a poor economic background. She was African American, a single mother with a young child, and she was on welfare. And she did not really have any prospects for her career, for her life. But she said, what happened at the time, there was a government program called the Job Training Partnership Act, JTPA, and a friend of hers said, this two-year college, they have a government program, they'll pay you to go to college. You didn't have to succeed, you just going there, you'd get money. And that was attractive to her. So she said, well, I have nothing to lose. So she signed up. But what she found was she could do it. And so she gained the self-confidence. And she eventually got her associate degree. And she liked it so much, she went on and got her bachelor's degree. And then she got a master's, and she got a doctorate. So she's Dr. Helen Rosemont Saunders now. And then she became a board member of that same community college. So she's now on the board of Tri-County Technical College in South Carolina, and she still is. So what an example for all of us. But let me tell you, you all here in this room, you're part of the solution. We can do great things together. The community college is very glad to be a partner with the community, and we thank you for coming and caring. Now, before I turn the mic back over, I did want to recognize two very special people, and that's Mr. Bob Schaefer and Dean Sherman, who are trustees of Northeast Iowa Community College. Thank you all for coming out, and they're here because they know this work is so important. Please thank them for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rydell. You want to fire that back? Okay. And thank you for your partnership in this event and also the leadership and the role that you play in the community of Dubuque and the surrounding areas. The next thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about some of the data from the Community Equity Profile. Here from the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque to share that information is Alex Baum.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to TH Media and to all of our panelists and to NICC, who is such a wonderful partner for us, not only tonight, but pretty much every day of the year. They have been such fantastic partners. I want to go into a little bit about the data that we've collected as a little bit of an appetite whetter for the main attraction, the panel today. But just to talk a little bit more about how the community equity profiles work. So at the beginning of every month, we are going to cover a different topic. And at that, we will present publicly available data and have a panel of experts and people with lived experience to kind of present the topic. After that, we will be gathering input and feedback from the community, from all of you as well. Through both a survey that we send out and through community conversations, which are facilitated conversations held across the city. On your table right now, you will see a sheet of paper that has listed the community conversations for November that will be discussing education. Please attend one of those, share your own experiences, say what you feel is most important about education in our community, because that kind of input, that kind of data is really the key to all of this work that is going on. As part of this, I mentioned we are covering a different topic every month. Here is the list of topics that are going to be going on between now and April. We are going to be taking a break in December because it's very, very cold. But we will be back to cover other aspects of our community. One thing before I get into the data that I want to talk about. We ran an equity profile back in 2015, and so some of this data is going to do a comparison. That's very important to us because we want to hold ourselves accountable for the changes that take place. We want to continue this conversation and not look just at a point of time, but where have we succeeded and where do we still need to do more work? In addition, we are using publicly available data for this, and you may notice the colors a little bit. Those are colorblind friendly colors, so if they see a little different from what you're used to, that's the reason we put them together. Now to start off, I want to zoom in a little bit and just begin by looking at some of the demographics that the school district has experienced and seen change over the past several decades. So this is between 1992 and 2022 and includes pre-kindergarten as well. So if we zoom in at the top, which are the different minority demographics that we have, you can see a very significant change that takes place since 1992 down to 2022, ending in a 24.3% of our school district is now minority populations, people of color. This is a really exciting change, and I want to focus for a second on the difference between 2015 and 2022 and look at this a little bit more closely. Now, this data is up over to the side and is on your table as well if you want to look at this. But just zooming in a bit on the current data, you can see that approximately 10% of our school district right now is black. Our Pacific Islander population has nearly doubled in the past 7 years. We are seeing a lot of change in the school district, which is very, very exciting opportunity. It also comes with its own barriers and challenges. Now next, as part of the equity profile, one of the things that is very dear to our heart at the Community Foundation is reading proficiency. Here is the proficiency by grade level, and I want to zoom in right now on third grade reading proficiency. So we have the blue bar is the 2018-2019 school district. The orange bar is 2020, 2021, and the gray bar is 21, 2022. You can see that the 2020 school year is left blank. We did not collect data due to the pandemic. You can see what some of the impact the pandemic had. We saw an 18.8% drop in the percentage of third graders reading at grade level proficiency between those 2 years. And then over the next year, we saw that number come back, another 14.7%. So an amazing rebound that the school district was able to achieve, but still something that we should be thinking about. And why are we talking about third grade proficiency? This is a key indicator that has been identified by researchers and by professionals throughout the nation. This is when there is a shift from students learning to read to being reading to learn. So it's a key time for a lot of our young people. And you can see that third graders who are proficient are 4 times more likely or third graders who are not proficient are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. And 88% students who don't get a high school diploma were struggling readers in third grade. So there's some very key statistics tied to this. Now let's also look at reading proficiency broken down by race, ethnicity, as well as our low socioeconomic status and individuals with a disability. This is really important for the equity profile to try to identify, are there populations that are being disproportionately impacted? Again, we're looking at the differences pre-pandemic to current data. You can see that our low socioeconomic students are reading at about a 45% proficiency, and students with disabilities down at 18.4. I want to focus on our black student population as well, which is at 31.7%, and our Pacific Islander, which is our Marshallese student group, is down around 11.3% of students reading at grade level proficiency. That's an area that I think we should have a conversation about and talk a lot more about tonight and in the month to come. Moving on from reading proficiency, graduation rate is also something very important. So this is a little hard to see, but I'm going to really quickly highlight the overall graduation rate over the past 7 years. So you can see back in 2014, it was a 91.5% graduation rate, and at the end of last year is 81.9. Now, I want to zoom in a little bit and kind of show the change since 2014. If you look at those last 2 bars of 5.8% and 9.6, those are during the pandemic and show a very dramatic change in the graduation rate over the past 2 years. Something that I know a number of us in the community have been having a conversation about. What is behind this and what can be done to bring those numbers back up? I also now want to clear out, because one of the things that impacts the overall graduation rate is the graduation rate of certain populations within the school district. So right now we are going to look at the Black, Hispanic, and low socioeconomic status numbers, and I'm going to zoom into those last 2 years again. And you can see that from 2019 down to 2021, numbers dropped from 82, 77.8, and 75% down to 69.1%, 65.9, and 56.1% respectively. So those are some of the changes that we've seen over the last 2 years in direct result from the pandemic. And then finally, the last graph that I want to talk about is again connected to the experience over the past 2 years, and that's chronic absenteeism. Now, chronic absenteeism is defined as the number of students who miss at least 10% of school days throughout the year. And now, we can look right now. I'm going to zoom in at all students. So we were sitting at 12.4% of students before the pandemic. That number has more than doubled up to 27.4% over the past couple of years. And if we look at those groups who've had their chronic absentee rate double, between that period of time, you can see that there's a lot of different groups. And I want to highlight here our Black students at 67.7%, and our Pacific Islanders at nearly 80%, right? Now, this is chronic absenteeism. This is students not even coming to the school district. And I think any of the educators here will tell you the impact that that can have on a student's ability to succeed in school. They have to be at school in the first place. Again, there is more information over to the side, more data. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and talk to it. But now we want to go and hear a little bit from our expert panel on what they are seeing within the community right now. Bob, thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex. Good and important information. And now the main event, and we're going to talk a little bit about, again, some of the stories and some of the resources and some of the things to be done. Moderating our panel tonight are Bobby Earls and De'Are Littleton, and I'll let them and the panelists introduce themselves here in a second. So Bobby, take it away.
Thank you, Bob. We're really good at rearranging chairs, too. That's a specialty of ours. Oh, and I think we have one more mic for you, De'Are. I think we've got one. Oh, and there's one back here. Let's make sure everybody's got their mics ready to go. Let me see.
Testing, testing.
Check, check, yep. All right, thank you, Bob. Excellent. So want to remind all of you, as we start this conversation, on your tables, we do have white cards, they're blank, and there's pens. We really encourage you, as you listen to this conversation, and maybe you came already armed with some questions that you really want to get answered, please write them down. We have volunteers that will be, our lovely volunteers over here to my right will come around. So just raise your hand, raise the card, we'll grab it, and we'll try to tackle as many as possible. We also want to let you know, too, if we don't get to them, we'll make sure that we do get them answered and get that information back out to you. So De'Are and I are excited to be here tonight and be part of this conversation, but really, these are our true stars tonight. We're going to let them walk through, introducing themselves, and Caitlin, we're going to start with you, and then we'll move our way over to Mark.
Good evening, everyone.
Really close.
Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. My name is Caitlin Wolf. I'm the Director of Social and Educational Programs at the Boys and Girls Club here in Dubuque.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Tabakhorst, and I'm the Executive Director of Elementary Education for Dubuque Community Schools.
Good evening, and I'm Wendy Mim Harold, and I've got the great pleasure to serve for the Northeast Iowa Community College as the Vice President of Business and Community Solutions.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shaquilla Johnson for the school counselor for Holy Family Catholic Schools.
And good evening. I'm Mark Burns. I work for the Dubuque Community School District, and I'm the Director of Secondary Education.
And De'Are, I didn't get a chance for you to introduce yourself.
I'm De'Are, Director of Equity for the Dubuque Community School District.
And we will serve as the facilitators. So we're going to kick this off. Alex talked a little bit about that data. Some of it, I could see people shaking their heads. Others, I heard a little bit of, Let's start a little bit because we heard this connection between COVID and some of the numbers and stats that we're looking at. Talk a little bit about how COVID has impacted our students and what you all have seen in your respective areas. Lisa, you're shaking your head. Do you want to start?
Sure. I think one of the things that's really important to note is we know nationally that anxiety and depression increased 4 times for adults, also for our students that are walking through the doors of our schools. And with that in mind, we know that we have to put things in place as not just as a school district, but as a community to address the mental health issues that surface from that lack of social engagement. When we look in the school area, we're thinking about those learning gaps that have happened because students were either, we were out of school from spring break on. It was a spring break that never ended. It continued, and our schools were closed. When schools were closed and then we came back and we were in that hybrid model, we had students that were in attendance with direct instruction half that time. And so even with the best efforts, around trying to provide continuing education for our students, we know that those learning opportunities, those learning gaps existed. One of the greatest building blocks that the state of Iowa talks about for continuous school improvement is time and opportunity. And their time and opportunity obviously was decreased because of the learning model we had to shift to. So really thinking about those two things, about the mental health of all of us as a community, but also the time and opportunity that our students had in the school setting.
I would say one of the other things that we have noticed, and I think we're all feeling it, are the shortages, the employment shortages. Many of our businesses are feeling it, so are we in education. We have a shortage of teachers, we have a shortage in administrators, we have a shortage in bus drivers and paraprofessionals. So we're all feeling that, and it has had an impact on every single one of our businesses.
I'm going to echo that from the Northeast Iowa Community College. The work shortage has impacted our ability to have some of those specialty instructors. The competition on wages has put a strain on the public institution. But I also want to echo what was said just previously is in regards to brain health. Brain health is affecting our staff, our students, our families, and that has made a significant impact, and we've seen stark increases since the pandemic. And so that's something that we've really doubled down on, and looking at ways that we can provide training and resources to our students, to our parents, and to our community members, as well as to our staff. The other thing that's, as we were shut down, we also had to switch to hybrid. So taking classes online, or taking it through Zoom, or coming in and having a hybrid course, and that's still continuing. So that's an impact on our instructors as well as our students. Some students learn really well that way. Some students really like that hands-on. And since COVID has occurred, we also have a lot of our health programs not being able to have some of the clinicals. We're still not back into all of the long-term healthcare facilities that we used to be. And for our short-term training, really having that hands-on with patients is so critical. So we're starting to get back to that, but it's really impacted our education. We did all of our clinicals in a simulation setting, still not as great as getting them hands-on. So we're definitely seeing that getting back, but it's definitely been a strain on education.
Shaquilla, you probably can speak firsthand as a counselor. What are students saying to you? What are you witnessing in students that connects back to that social, emotional piece that really is so important to our learning?
For me, the first thing I do at my school, all about the kids. That's my job. For me, I want to make sure before anything, even before education, that they have that safe place that they can go to. I tell my students, even if it's not me, any trusted adult, they have been through a lot. They're facing depression, anxiety, all of these different things. We have to think about some of these kids have never been in a classroom, so because of COVID. So getting back to that normalcy and giving them that trusted adult, that's what's important to me before anything.
Yeah, kind of just piggybacking off that, as a community, what do you think that we could do to help improve learning and increase opportunities to learn?
So one of the ways I really believe that an increase in learning opportunities within the community can flourish is through partnerships with other nonprofits or community organizations. And this really allows like-minded community leaders, like everyone in this room, to come together and really help and assist in common goals with our children and the youth in the community. So for example, a current partnership we have at the Boys and Girls Club is with St. Mark's Youth Enrichment. This partnership was strictly in the summer, but now we are transitioning to do a year-round program that will allow them to use our facilities. This is crucial because it allows the students to have rooms within the Boys and Girls Club building, and allows them to focus on fulfilling their child's grade level rather than being, combined with, K first and second graders. They really have someone to focus and fulfill their needs. We also are partnering with the RTA, which will allow transportation to the Boys and Girls Club from schools. And this opens up doorways for families who may have not had that access beforehand. So I really do believe that this partnership and working with other community people will allow access to more learning opportunities for our youth.
I would.
Go right ahead, Lisa.
They almost started singing together. I love this. That's great.
You'd
What were you
think
gonna
we
say?
worked
We'll do
together or
that later.
something.
We'll do that later. Ladies first. Ladies first.
One of the things that I'm thinking about is just piggybacking off the recent report about housing in the Dubuque community and thinking about when we talk about students coming into school, we have to meet their basic needs first. We have students that are living in homes that do not have kitchens that allow food or refrigeration. We have homes that do not have adequate plumbing, and those are the conditions our students are living in, and then coming to school. And basic needs is the first building block of building that education. So thinking about how we can collectively, as a community, lift those barriers and put adequate and affordable housing in place for many of our individuals. I know Alex was showing some of the subgroups up on about the proficiency rates and so forth, and I'm thinking about, for example, the percent of perhaps Marshallese community members that own their own home or have that affordable, adequate housing. I'm also thinking that our students that experience that free and reduced lunch, they are 4 times more likely to not have adequate attendance in school. And some of that is because we had a pandemic, and their health, especially in some subgroups, for example, the Marshallese community, there's a lot of health issues that have surfaced, and there's that fear of coming back to school. And so we also have transportation barriers. So how do we work as a community to lift those barriers? If a student, the state allows us to bus in a 2-mile radius outside of the school. If you live within the 2-mile radius and you're a single parent and you have a newborn and it's 10 degrees outside and your kindergarten student needs to walk to school, those are the choices some of our families are making. So how as a community can we tap into other resources to support them?
Yes. We encourage clapping. Yes.
So Alex and Lisa both talked about attendance, and let me give you a bit of a sobering statistic when you look at that. When you consider the attendance rate, and so this is looking at it from the positive end, when students attend 90% of the time or more at Hempstead High School last year, first semester, 99% of those students passed the class. We need the students in class. The Fs, the failure rates, are coming from those students who are not in class, so we need them in class. The other thing I would point out would be, on your tables, I put the Dubuque Community School District priority initiatives from our school board, and I would just point out that we are open again. Community engagement, 9, 10, and 11, those priority initiatives there, all about engaging again with the community and getting our families to come into school and be a part of school. During the pandemic, we quit doing that because we needed to. We are open for business again, and we want to partner with you, whether you be a business, whether you be retired, or as a parent. We want to see you in our schools mentoring and working with our students.
From the community college perspective, I just want to give you, we had a survey that was done in 2021 of a little over 300 of their students in regards to financially. So this is just a small sampling, but out of that small sampling, 54% of them worried about finances, 36% had housing insecurity, 14% food insecurity, and 46% of them stated that they would not be able to find or be able to get their hands on $500 if they had an emergency. And we have 72% of our students attend college part-time. So that means they're working either part-time and full-time, and they're struggling. So financially, today we had a crisis fund to raise money to help pay for those $500 to get their hands on that when they have an emergency. So really paying attention to that, paying it forward. There's scholarship funds that help students that you can do, all the different ways that we partner. We partner with the Dubuque Works, and we're able to provide over 282 students tuition-free short-term training that leads to employment or continuing on in education. Those dollars are invaluable to those students because they need that so that they can use the money that they have to pay their rent, to have their food, and maybe not have to work as many hours. So really getting engaged. And as we stated earlier, having some of that shortage of instructors or people working in, if you can encourage people to look for job opportunities in the public education or private education institutions, it'd be great. It's an amazing, rewarding career. So those would be the things I would like to pull forward as what you can do to help us.
Shaquilla, do you want to add any? No, not going to touch that one. No, just teasing you. Alex talked in the data about how the demographics within our school district have changed, that we've become more diverse. Let's talk a little bit about what has changed, how we have adjusted in our learning environment for that, or how do we need to adjust to really serve and make sure we're serving all of our students?
I can start from the community college perspective. We've changed in regards to everything we do is holistic advising. We're meeting with the student and finding out what is their living environment, what is their financial status, what is their assessing them for their educational needs. And so really helping them have a holistic plan. We work with them if they need to have a college and career coach to help them really understand what career they want to go into to be successful, and help them with financial planning, help them apply for scholarships, etc. So we really make sure that each student has a high touch in order to be successful. That's something we're very proud of, and it's really paid the dividends for students to complete. We also, with our short-term certificate training and education, we partner very closely with the educational institutions and start working with students in the high school and talking about career pathways and opportunities and getting them into work-based learning opportunities. And we've done that at our earlier and earlier age as the years have gone on, and really making sure that all students have an opportunity to tour a facility, either have a speaking engagement, have a mentor that they can work with, having an opportunity to sit down and talk about academic and financial planning while you're in high school, helping you fill out your FAFSA. So we're really hands-on in the high school, and we also have success coaches that are hands-on out in the community, working with organizations that provide housing, working with organizations that provide food, working with organizations that provide childcare, getting out into the community and reaching them and hopefully trying to see how we can get people into education. So we're really have enhanced our outreach into the community to bring people into education and helping them to complete. And with having the multiple ladders where you can do short-term training, you can do a 1-year program, you can do a 2-year program, you can continue on to your 4-year degree, you can take a 32-hour course, you can take a 150-hour course. So can teach you to be a certified nurse's aide, a truck driver, a nurse, an accountant. So we really try to make sure that we have all levels of education and on and off ramps.
What Wendy speaks of there in the Dubuque Community School District, and we partner with NICC quite a bit, is our Vertex initiative. Very important initiative to us. It's about helping our students become career and college ready. We appreciate the partnership with NICC. We also have Vertex coaches that are working in the students, trying to match their interests to future careers. I can tell you that from last year to this year, we are up 188% in students taking concurrent classes or PSEO classes or PIC classes, which are on the NICC campus. The PIC classes are. The PSEO courses are at Loris, Clark, UD, or another local institution, and then the concurrent are taught by our teachers in most cases, but they're a college level course, so students get college credit for it and they get high school credit for it. One of the other things that we have done, and I have the privilege of, is working with Dier. We hired Dier a couple of years ago. He is our director of equity, and it's been a privilege to learn from him and work alongside him. And then the last thing that I point out as part of a school board initiative is about culturally relevant clubs and organizations. We've started to create more culturally relevant clubs and organizations. That's School Board Priority Initiative 1, for those of you who have that sheet in front of you. And Jawanza, who's walking around, she has been instrumental in helping get started a Black Student Union at each of our high schools. We look to have those kick off here in January, if not before. And so we're excited about that. And
Thank you for
trying to give those students a space, really calling them in and making sure that they feel included and a part of something other than the traditional offerings.
All right,
I just wanted to say, as an entire district, one of the things that we're also working on through Dier's work and through the work of all of our teacher leaders is really reaching out for that intercultural communication. We're trying to make sure that all of our underrepresented populations are represented, the rich diversity and celebration that can be brought into our classrooms to instill that sense of belonging and inclusion is a mission of what we're doing through our professional learning. So that's another piece when we look at the diversity that's coming through our doors. It's a celebration. It is something that we need to recognize and embrace and put those strategies in place so that the outcomes are positive, so every student feels valued and successful.
Awesome. Thank you both for that. Knowing that the demographics are changing, as we stated, and we talked through some of that, one of the audience questions is, when we think about that it's changing, some Dubuquers may see that diversification as a problem. What can be done to debunk that?
I'll go again. I don't look at this as a problem. This is an opportunity. We have opportunities to learn and grow by the richness of all of us as a community. And it's those very steps of taking that time to get to know people. You mentioned that holistic approach. We have to be holistic and recognize people for the gifts and their heritage, their traditions. They bring another whole layer of perspective that just makes us better. And that is that's woven into our professional development plan. We are working on differentiation. It is those learning strategies to instructional strategies that bring entry points into universal instruction. And that is what we're all about. So I don't look at it as a problem. It is totally an opportunity for all of us.
I would agree with that. At the Dubuque Center, I know Chelsea Cox is out there somewhere. She's our Director of Student Success. And I challenge any of you, just not on a Friday afternoon, but Monday through noon on Friday, stop on in at the Dubuque Center. The rich culture, the food that's brought in, there's banjos playing, singing in multi, it's just unbelievable, and it's fun. And what we've done also is that we have diversity in age as well, because we have 17-year-olds that may have been at risk of stopping out of high school, so our partnership with Reengage Dubuque, up to 70-year-olds plus, mature adults, that are deciding that they want to complete their HiSET, their GED. It's been a dream of theirs, and they're helping each other and studying together and learning together. It's just an amazing environment, and we're all learning together. So we look at it as an opportunity to grow together.
Mark, you pointed out in your statistic about Hempstead and how important it is when students show up in the classroom, their success rate automatically goes through the roof. One of the questions from our audience members is, what are the intentional strategies being done to engage families of children who are chronically absent? What is being done or what can be done to engage those students so we can get them into the classroom?
And just, I'll start off with just talking about relationships. It is so important that we have positive relationships with our students. Part of our professional development every year is how do we create those relationships? How do we create those safe spaces for our students, for each one of our students, and really creating that welcoming environment. So in the Dubuque Community School District, what we're really focused on is the optimal learning environment and what that looks like, and then how do we create that. And our PD at the beginning of the year this year was around that. What are the supports that we put in place for the students to help them grow and feel safe and be ready to learn, try and meet their needs, at the door when they come in. And then, as mentioned earlier, we talked about Dier leading the intercultural intercultural communication professional development for each one of our schools.
Another layer that we have that we really work hard on is that communication and connection with families. And so reaching out and talking about what are those barriers to attendance? How can we support you? What can we do to help you? We have those conversations. Sometimes we work on a contract to help support, like this is what we'll do as a school to support you. What are you able to do to support in this process? So it's an ongoing communication. It's never you haven't been in school. Why? It's, hey, you're coming to school today. We're so glad to see you. It's that relationship piece. And then that connection with the family about, okay, this is how we're doing, where are we at, ongoing.
Caitlin, you kind of alluded to this when you talked about partnerships. As a community, and through those partnerships, we can also encourage children. We can talk about learning being fun. You can engage in a learning environment even outside the classroom. Talk a little bit about what you're working on down at the Boys and Girls Club and just some examples.
Sure. So at the Boys and Girls Club, we offer summer programming, but we also offer after-school programming. And really what we've noticed is that we're really geared towards developing social skills and building off what they learn at school, but trying to find like non-traditional ways of doing that so they're interested and engaged, and that can always be a little bit tricky. But we've seen that there's been a transition between fitness and sports related activities and the kids' interest in that. Really now it's been STEAM programming that we've been focusing on. So in the summer we did an egg drop challenge and things of that nature, and that allowed them to do STEAM and science, technology, engineering, but also in a fun and creative way that gave them access to finding their own ways. And so we're very excited and honored to have been awarded the DRA grant and been one of the recipients, because this is going to allow us to expand our arts and crafts room. And so this will give kids opportunity and access to things that they may not have access to. And for example, we're going to be putting in a kiln, so doing pottery and having someone who is a full-time staff in the arts and crafts room and giving them more opportunity to learn and stuff. And none of this really would be possible without partnerships, so that's really one of the main things I would say is important for all these learning experiences.
That's awesome. And Shaquilla, what advice would you have for us as community members, as parents, as neighbors, as people who are invested in our children? What can we be doing also to encourage our children to not only attend school, but just to kind of embrace learning and to be there for them so we can be listening to them?
Listen. That's the first thing. I think sometimes we don't listen to children because they're children and we think they can't teach us anything, but listening is the first step. For me, I feel that if a child is having attendance issues or not wanting or voicing to their parents they don't want to come to school, we need to figure out why. And again, just like some of you said on this panel, to build that relationship. And you can teach them when they come, but first you have to get them there. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, we're asking you all to put your questions on card just for the sake so we can have more questions answered. And if not, then we can still find a way to get those answers. So I just wanted to throw that out. I'm going to ask another question from the audience. It says, are there ways employers can better support parents and students to help reduce absenteeism? What are the common reasons students do not report for school?
I think some of the examples we were talking about earlier about lifting those barriers, whether it's transportation or I was a single mom once myself with 2 little children that if I was in crisis mode, I was doing pretty good if I got them to school. So it's really realizing the unique situations that our families are presented with. And that's some of the reason. The other reason is we want to continue those efforts as a collective community to help that sense of belonging, feeling included, and get students engaged in the learning that is presented them on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that we've worked on to address attendance is before school care, and that has been a community effort. We worked with Leisure Services here in Dubuque. We worked with our Dubuque Public Schools Foundation, and we took some grant money, and we were able to hire our own staff to provide that before school care that families need. That's a barrier. If school starts at 8:30 and I need to be to work at 8 and I'm newer to the community, or maybe I'm not, I've lived here for a long time, I need those connections of how to support my child so that they feel safe and they can be in school. And through that, we know it's made an 11% difference in our attendance in our schools. So providing that has been another piece. So getting kids engaged and helping lift barriers for our families are 2 big things.
At the community college as well, attendance is a sign of completion in grades. And we too have some attendance issues. And so one of the things that I can ask from businesses, if you have employees that are working for you, please encourage them to get to school. Ask them how they're doing in class, making sure that they know that you care about them completing, because they need that encouragement as well. And so it is absolutely critical that we all help them be successful. So, and if they need to take a test, being flexible, Greater Dubuque Development has started a program, Works That Work. And it's a program where you can hire students and just making sure that when you're working with them that they have time off when they have finals, because they need that extra time to study or if they have a big project. So having some of that flexibility from the employment side is very important as well.
One issue that's been universal in quite a few questions is this idea of transportation. We talked about barriers, and transportation seems to be one of them. It was mentioned that if you live outside of this 2-mile school district and closeness to your school, then you kind of miss out on the bus. You have to be 2 miles or out. If you're 2 miles or closer, Lisa, you mentioned this, that this can be a real struggle for a single parent having to make those really tough decisions. What can we, as a community, do to address transportation issues when it comes to helping our children get to school?
I have to say, the city, the Jewel bus, the partnership that we have started to develop and have put in place has been a great thing for our students. For example, we have around 28 students every day that ride the Jewel bus to Prescott. And so that has been a tremendous help. It's great too because it's not a one-stop like a school bus is. If you're late, you miss the bus. The Jewel has that continuous route, so if I missed it at the appropriate time to get to school on time, guess what? In about another 20, 25 minutes, that bus is coming by again and I can get to school. We are working with them to establish some other routes that can transport students within that 2-mile living radius to get to some of our schools. We also, as Mark mentioned, we have a shortage of bus drivers. So Jawanza, Jay, who's walking around and helping out, I mean, she's been going out to the communities and saying at FedEx, hey, you have some part-time drivers? Would they like to also drive school bus? We're trying to get creative to really recruit and get more staff on board so we can meet those needs. So if you know anyone who wants to drive a bus, any of you out there, we'd take you.
We can train you.
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue into this next question. It says, as the student population becomes more diverse, what is being done to make sure staff, teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals are also a more diverse and a reflection of the demographic change?
Well, I mentioned earlier about the optimal learning environment and making sure that we are creating the best learning environment for our students. So that's going to be one of the ways, and you'll see that in the priority initiatives there on number 3. We have an excellent school board who has really been paying attention to the needs within the community, and they've got us on the right path in a lot of cases. So one of the ways is to make sure that we're creating that optimal learning environment. It is. And thanks, Nancy. It's a journey, right? It's something that we are all learning. We're all improving on a daily basis. And when we know better, we do better.
This is a good question. For each panelist, if you could name one thing that you see as important but needs to be addressed in our K through 12 or higher ed arena, what would it be? What would be that one thing that you see as important but needs to be addressed in our K through 12 and or higher ed arenas?
I feel we need to diversify our staff. Students need to see themselves in the people that are teaching them. They need to feel that connection. And again, that brings value to the whole process. We also, this is not going to be a big surprise, we need funding. So I told you 2 things, but we do need funding. State supplemental aid is, we're 34th in this nation in funding our Iowa schools. We're 19th in educational ranking of progress, but we are 34th. We can do better.
Boy, that's hard to choose one thing. I think funding's important, but I really feel that working on brain health as a community, as a state, as a nation, it really affects our employment, it affects our students, it affects their families. So I really believe that that's very important, because if you're in a safe, secure, healthy environment, you're in a safe, secure ability to learn and work. So that would be my one thing.
My one thing would be diversity. I work for Holy Family Schools, Resurrection School to be exact, and I am the only African American on staff, but I absolutely love it. No one forces me to be different. And even though they're seeing a difference in, my skin color and everything that I do, I'm able to teach them and they're able to teach me. So we really need to work on diversifying the schools.
I'm going to say the word hope. I think our students need hope. I think one of the ways to do that is through our Vertex initiative, matching them up with their interests, with possible career opportunities that are going to be high wage earning jobs. We need to help our students move out of poverty. We need to help them develop hope.
To go off some others, but I really think that one of the issues is inclusivity. I think it's really important that that we not only recognize the differences, but really embrace them, and that's done by, really learning, different cultures, learning about if, a child has a disability, learning different races or genders or ethnicities and all those things, and understanding them and embracing them. So creating an environment, a safe space for those to flourish, I really think is important, and will help our youth in our community feel heard and represented.
Awesome. With 5 minutes left, I'm going to ask my final question, and then I'll let Bobby end it. But my question is, how can we create a home environment that is supportive to students and encourages them to create a positive social environment at school?
I think one of the things parents or guardians are the first teachers of our children. And the things that they can do, one, teach them how to be, I'm thinking about when they're toddlers or when they're young, teaching them those basic skills of how to be independent, how to tie your shoe, button your shirt. But most importantly, within those skills is the love, the acceptance, and the structure that you can put in place as a family. Students thrive in structure. Kids thrive in structure too. And so it's hard sometimes to say no to your child. You have to do it because that teaches them the expectations and the roles within society. And so giving them love, giving them acceptance, helping them find what they're curious about, what their hope is, what they want to be, and then giving them those structures to thrive, I think are things we can do to help with those social interactions as they get into school.
All right, our last question is all about connecting the dots. So we had one person who was very interested in, we've talked about what's going on at school. We recognize how important it is to have children attend and be in class. How do we help children during that, what they call summer slide, when they leave school for one academic year and they return back into the fall? And I know, Caitlin, you talked a little bit about this, so I'll let you kick this one off.
Sure, thank you. So I believe that summer program really plays an extremely important role in a child's educational experience. When working with youth, you learn quickly that sometimes the home environment doesn't always provide or stimulate growth and development. So creating that environment that does is essential. So in summer programs at the Boys and Girls Club, like I said before, STEAM and things like that. Right now we're working with Turnt Kids, which is a local dance organization, and they're going to be coming and giving dance lessons every Monday for our kids. And so those are some things that we also do in the summer. So collaborating, like I said before, we also bring in, it's called the Adventures with Emily, and it's a librarian bi-weekly will come in. Her name is Emily. She reads a story to our younger children, and then they do a craft or an activity afterwards. So really we make sure that it's a structured activity like you said before, that's where the child can learn and flourish, but also making sure that they still have time to create those social interactions and things of that nature. So I think summer programming is really important in preventing that summer loss, and really making sure that we use, like I said before, non-traditional ways to really encompass that kind of learning and development.
And we could segue into mentoring and tutoring too, and how important that is year-round to have that be part of our students' experience. Any last words before we toss the mic over to Bob?
I just want to say one more thing. When I think about what we can do to connect the dots, I also think about how we can lift our community out of poverty. And what can we do? What we do for adults also impacts children. And so whether it's the Fountain of Youth, whether it is, there used to be something called Getting Started, whatever those things are that we can do to lift our adults, we're also doing for our students.
I would just want to say on behalf of Dier, Mark, Shaquilla, Wendy, Lisa, Caitlin, thank you. Thank you for taking time to answer these questions. And Dier, hold up in your hand all of the note cards. I don't know if you can see how thick these are, but you all have come up with great questions, and we wish we could have gotten to every single one. We will address these questions. We absolutely will get these questions answered and put that out there so you have an opportunity to be heard. So thank you for engaging. Thank you for raising some great questions, and we really appreciate your dedication and commitment to our children. They're our future. So thank you.
Can we also hear it for Bobby and Dier? I think they did an awesome job facilitating our discussion tonight. So we've been promising all along that we wanted to be able to identify some resources and some takeaways from all of these. So here are some of the notes that I took tonight. 24% of the school district is of minority or of color. We are increasingly diverse in our community, and we need to make sure we address that. Third grade reading is huge, and proficiency, if you're not proficient, 4 times more likely to drop out of school. Staff shortages and brain health are very important, and we heard that as one of the top issues from one of our panelists. Partnership with nonprofits and other organizations are important. We heard about the Boys and Girls Club St. Mark's, the RTA. 2 topics that related. It's no secret and it's no coincidence that these 7 topics that we're addressing over 7 months or 8 months are all interrelated. And you heard about housing, which we talked about a couple of months ago, and you heard about transportation, which we're going to talk about more in April. So all interrelated. If you attend 90% or more of class, you are 99% likely to pass that class. So attendance is crucial. We heard a little bit about mentoring and volunteering. These are things that we can be involved in. And I want to put this out there. We have a kind of mature group here tonight, right? Maybe? Or certainly enough of us who are retirees or close to retirement. This is a great opportunity to get involved in volunteering and mentoring. Your school districts need you. Your students and your community need you to do that. We heard about Dubuque Works. We heard about counseling and coaching. We heard a couple times about the Vertex program and the importance that it plays and how more people can take advantage of it. We heard also about being more culturally inclusive in clubs and organizations and just being more welcoming in our schools and our community and being willing to learn about other races and cultures. And it's an opportunity, not a concern or a threat. I've got a number of here more, but I'm not going to go through all of them. But the top ones we heard, the one things, got to keep the one thing in mind. Diversity of staff, we heard that 2 times tonight. We heard about funding, that we're 34th in the country. We need to work on that. Brain health, I mentioned. Students need hope, that we talked about Vertex. And we talked about safe spaces. We also talked about what we as parents, our role in that is, and the importance of providing structure at home. and also the ways we can prevent that summer slide by continuing to have students involved, connecting those dots with summer programs, mentoring and tutoring, and creating those social interactions. So there's some takeaways. These are things that we can do. So let's get to it. But there's some good resources out there as well. We need to make use of them. I want to thank our sponsors again, NICC, our lead sponsor tonight. Thank you, Dr. Rydell, John Deere, Cottingham and Butler, Greater Dubuque Development, Dubuque Area Chamber, Hodge Companies, Greed State Credit Union, and especially the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque. Here's what's next. Starting on the 10th, November 10th, this is related but not the same. We are going to be having community conversations, and when I say we, I mean the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque. These are on your tables. Make sure you grab one, try and attend one of these. This is your chance, additional chance to chime in with your questions, your concerns, your ideas, and so on. November 10th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. Those are all dates that you can get involved with those community foundation or community conversations. Our next panel discussion, we're taking the month of December off. Our next panel discussion is going to be the week of January 9th. Location to be announced, probably 9th, 10th, or 10th, 11th, or 12th. And we hope that you will attend that. Lastly, and almost as important, there are still nachos available in the back. Nobody gets out of here without having some more nachos. So, on behalf of everyone at TH Media, the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque, and all of our sponsors, thank you much for coming tonight.